Sandy, thank you so much for joining and being a part of this. It's awesome to
Thank you.
have you here. And so would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So, I'm happy to like listening to Jermaine is awesome for me because it's I'm a realtor as well. I come from a different realm, so I have so I've been in the real estate business for 31 years selling real estate. Got into it not as I didn't want to do resale. My husband at the time and I were flipping houses, and it was easier for me to get my license and buy the houses and then sell them at the end. And that's why I got into real estate. About 10 years after, I guess about 10 years after that, I decided to get into sales, like the resale market. So I've been investing in real estate since I was 22 years old. My husband and I bought our first house at that age, which was a really interesting experience. And so now I've kind of come full circle where got into sales, and then so I've always been an investor since that age. So it's been a long time, but then in resale as well. So I've bought and sold a lot of houses with my clients, but I also work with quite a few investors, and I am an investor. So, and I've been investing in a number of places for the last little while. And so I've kind of seen it from both sides, but I do see, I like Jermaine's question, what are the best questions that how a realtor can help investors? I have some ideas on how that can work. And I do think it is important that if you're going to work with investors, that you do need to be an investor, because it is a little bit of a different niche there. So, but it's a great way to get into the market. And I think investing in real estate, to me, is extremely important. I think young people should all invest in real estate in one way or another, because I just think, you just look at it, everybody has to live somewhere. People have to live somewhere, and in this country, especially in the GTA and in Ontario, people are fundamentally home buyers. You know, some areas there's a lot of renters, but here in this province and this country, most people want to buy a home. So I think there's some real good opportunities there. And I see a lot of ways that investors can team up with real estate agents. And it pains me sometimes when I talk to investors and they say, well, I don't want to commit to a real estate agent. And I personally think that that's a mistake. But you do have to team up with the right real estate agent. You can't just team up with any real estate agent that's just going to send you properties that are on the MLS. If that's the case, then you don't need us. But there are some really good ways that investors can team up with real estate agents, and it can be a really, really good win-win situation. So that's what brings me here.
Awesome.
So I'm happy to talk to you guys and hear from your side why people think that way and how that marriage can work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much. And so I guess we'll start with a very basic question, and just understanding what makes a realtor different from an investor realtor. Like, what do you see is the difference between the two, other than being an investor? Like, sorry, I'm getting dust. But yeah, like what are qualities in an investor a real estate investor that we want to kind of keep an eye on?
So I would say if you're looking for a real estate agent to team up with, number one, they should be an investor. I think it's understanding where the investor is coming from, because the investor, as an investor, when you're looking for properties, you're looking for something totally different than what an end user is looking for. So an end user is looking for something that maybe they can, they're going to stay in for maybe 2 to 3 years, or for long term, whereas an investor is looking for something different. You've got to be able to build some profit into that purchase. You've got to know the area that you're buying in, and also be able to help that investor figure out what's the best use of this property and what to do with it. Because I've seen people buy properties in an area, and I mean, it's a great deal. They purchase it at it's a great price, but then they go over and above and don't listen to the realtor don't go crazy in this house. This is the standard you need to bring it up to, and then you're going to make some money here. But they don't listen to that experience, and then they do too much in the house and don't make any money on it. The other thing I think you need is somebody who's going to team up with you and understand that, you know, everybody's in this at the end of the day to make money. You're in this to make money. We're in this to make money. So so I have investors that, you know, people will say, well, what do you charge? It really depends. There's got to be some teamwork there. So if you're buying a property and, you know, things go a little bit sideways and then you go to sell it and we have to adjust what we're making, then we have to do that because you have to do that as well, right? So, or, you know, at some deals, you're going to make a little bit more money than other deals. And what's the end use of this property? Are you going to be holding this property? Are you going to be flipping this property? All of those things make a big difference in how you approach it. And you need a realtor who's going to fight for you at the table to get a property for the right price so you can make some money on that property.
100%. And so what are the different ways that you see partnerships happening with an investor and a realtor, as an investor realtor?
So I think that most investors do not want to commit to one real estate agent, and I get that. I do think you should have a relationship with your realtor, because otherwise you're doing one-off transactions. It's a transactional relationship, which is never going to work out in the end. So I understand when I work with realtors that, you know, we have a relationship. If I find a good property for you, you're going to buy it. If you go out and find a property that works for you, you're probably going to call me to help you negotiate it with it. Don't just look at the money. Well, I don't want to build any commission in here, because everything can be worked out. So at the end of the day, you're also going to find properties on your own that you go out and buy on your own. And as a realtor, I understand that. And I'm all for that, because that's what you're trying to do at the end of the day. But we need to have, it needs to be a relationship as opposed to a transactional relationship, because that's where you're going to run into problems. The realtor's just going to try, and you don't want a realtor who's just going to try and make the most money out of this transaction as they possibly can, and then you move on and you're doing the same thing. If you have that relationship and there's some give and take, and we can work together where, you know, we're going to be making money over the long run together, we can help you better, because we have access to a lot of different avenues. So I can get into that a little bit later in the different avenues of properties that we have access to. And so you're going to get access to everything, not just, I can't just be giving you access to just what's on the MLS, because you can do that yourself. You don't need me to do that, like I said. So we need to be able to give you access to other stuff. And we get stuff that comes up all the time. So I have a guaranteed sale program for clients. So I guarantee that I'll sell a client's house or I'll buy it. So obviously I'm not buying that property at full market value, right? I'm buying it, you know, whatever that amount is. So a lot of times we can bring an investor in and say, here, I have this property. Sometimes it doesn't even need work, right? Sometimes it's just, you just buy it, you can rent it out, or you can just flip it just like that. So there's a lot of opportunities, including that, where you can have a good relationship.
Okay, that's great. So does anyone want to ask a question? No, we're good so far? Yeah? Okay. So
I'll
then,
ask a question if I can.
pardon?
If I can, I'll ask a question if I can, just from, I mean, I've done a lot of talking, but just from investor side, what do you guys feel is the biggest, I guess, issue or hurdle when you're working with realtors, and how can a realtor help you better?
Yeah. So I think I'll answer that one, because I think a lot of people's worries is basically like overusing a person, like ruining that relationship. And, you know, because as investors, a lot of us will we'll put out a lot of offers. Like there's people that I know that will put, you know, like one offer a day to like 10 offers a day, right? And that's something that, you know, we don't want to like abuse our realtor and be like, can you put in these like 10 offers a day, and most likely out of those 10 will be zero. It's probably in a month maybe you'll get 2, because also as investors, as you said, we're lowballing, right? We will lowball because we have our different strategies of what kind of properties we're looking for. So what do you think when, as what I said, how do you think would be the best way to partner up, because we're going through this, or like that worry that we want to make sure that we're not, over, like, asking too many times and ruining that relationship, right?
So where are you finding these properties that you're putting, let's say if you're putting an offer a day, where are you getting these properties from?
Let's say advertisements. We advertise that we buy houses.
Okay. So you're getting, let's say the end user, or sorry, the seller is calling you directly, and then you're negotiating directly with that seller. Is that the way, do I
That,
understand that correctly?
or yeah, or like let's say on Kijiji, or even on MLS, and we find things too. It can be so many different avenues that we're looking, right? A lot of us are kind of just looking everywhere and anywhere just to, basically, open up our options to make sure we're trying to, make as many offers as we can, and also, try to, because like that, like our because of the amount of offers we per out, and how low the values where we start from, we know we're not going to get all those offers, right?
Right. Okay. So I guess the question would be, I think what you need to do, that's a loaded question, I think, that you're asking me, like, how do you not abuse that relationship? So I think what you need to do is have a meeting with a realtor, interview realtors, and have a meeting with them, sit down with them and explain to them, this is what I do, this is what I'm looking for, this is the return on investment that I'm looking for, and have a good conversation, interview with them, and so you both understand where you stand. So if I'm putting offers in for somebody and then nothing comes of that, I'm okay with that if I know that there's an end to this game at some point, right? So if you're going to be putting in offers, then when you find something, there has to be some reciprocation there, right? So we have to be making money at the end of the day. We're not here to work for free as well, right? So if I have a good relationship with a realtor, or sorry, with an investor, and we're working back and forth and they're working exclusively with me, I can do that. But there has to be some flow to it, right? So then let's say you're putting a property for sale at some point, and I'm listing that property, I'm getting spin-off business from that property. So at the end of the day, I'm going to be making money, right? It may not be directly from some of those offers that I'm putting in, but from some of the other work that I'm doing for you, I'm going to get spin-off business from that. And then when you look at the big picture, everybody's making money.
Mm-hmm.
And that's okay.
Mm-hmm. And I think even another approach I know that some other people do with their realtors is that, for example, if they're just getting information from them, like sometimes, because you need, for example, the proper, like the owner's names to make sure, the owner's names, and for example, the, what is it? And then the proper name of the house, you need the proper description. I know that there are also people that will, for example, like pay a fee, like say, like, what, like, you may not be making the offers for me, and there may be a few, but if you give me, for example, like the geo tab, are you okay with, a certain amount a month if I make this many requests? Like, there's so many different options of doing things
Absolutely.
too.
That's
Yeah.
what I'm saying. Yeah, that's what I'm like. Have a conversation. Sit down with the realtor and have a conversation about how you work and what you do, and how can we make this a good relationship where it works. And yeah, why not? Why not do something like that where the person's getting you the information and you're paying them? Because really, you can't expect somebody to work for. You can't expect somebody to just continually provide information to you for free.
Yeah.
And that free, but by what I mean by that is, for free could be a pay-per-use service, or it could be, yeah, I'm getting this many deals. I mean, the question could be, especially for new investors who are starting out and don't have a lot of money to work with, it could be, okay, what's it worth? Like, how much do you need from me at the end of the year if this is how this looks, right? So it may not be a fee for service, but it could be a certain number of deals per year. If I get this many deals per year, I can work within these parameters and I can do this. There's always ways to work everything out. right? There's always ways to work. You guys are investors, you know, sometimes you've got to figure things out and doing it with the least amount of money possible, especially when you're starting out as an investor, because there's a lot of cash outlay that you need there.
100%. Yeah. Yeah. And like that, it's all really a negotiation between the two. And I feel like normally if the realtor is really that interested in getting involved with an investor, they will even like the negotiation will happen. You know, like even like an example is between you and I, right? I
Yeah,
remember I told you the same thing. Like I can't sign on to just
right.
one realtor because I'm like I have others. But our the way we decided to negotiate that was that anything that you bring me, you are 100% like any listing, any email listing that comes from you. And you know, we it's something I want to put an offer in, 100%, that's all yours, you know, like,
Yeah,
and then we even made it that if it's a flip, then you can also, you know, you can also
yeah,
like sell. So there's many different options. And I feel like that, like, I think for some reason, a lot of investors also get scared with that contract between the
yeah,
realtor.
yeah,
Whereas like you just need to be specific in the details, right? Like that,
absolutely.
like I am our with you and I, right? Our contract is specifically that it's any listings that you provide me, right?
Yeah,
So, and then I think we also picked a specific area. I can't
we
remember,
did.
but
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
that's right.
So because same thing, like I have realtors that also, you know, other, you know, I work in other
Yeah.
areas with. So it's just like I feel like that's also. Do you have anything to say about that? Because I noticed that there are people that are kind of even scared with signing that contract, and you know.
Yeah. It's everything's negotiable, right? So anything in that contract is negotiable. So whatever you guys like, whatever you decide is going to work for both parties, it just gets written into that, right? And I think the good thing about our relationship is we just pick up the phone and kind of talk to each other and like, hey, what do you see going on? What, like, this is what I see is going on, and what are you finding? And that's a great relationship for me, because I like to have my ear to the ground and find out what other people are thinking and what other people are doing, especially from an investor viewpoint, right? So I have a number of investors that I work with that work exclusively with me, and I go out and see the properties, and I call them and say, okay, buy this one, and they just buy it, because we've built up such a great relationship that they know I'm not going to lead them astray. Because my goal is not to sell. My goal is not for you to buy one property and then move on to somebody else. My goal is that we're going to build that relationship. So, because we all know that everything happens really fast in real estate, right? Like you can go 2-3 months with nothing good coming up, and then all of a sudden you've got way too much product or way too many options to choose from. So sometimes I go see a property because I'm out there looking at properties all the time, and I'm like, damn, somebody's got to buy this house. Like this is a great opportunity. So I need to have those people that I can call and say, okay, buy this one, and they buy it, and they make money, because it's not in my best interest for them not to make money. That doesn't help me. I've been doing this for too long. It doesn't help me to have these one-off relationships. That's not what I want. So that's how you can build that relationship and that rapport with a good realtor, for sure. But they have to understand that your business is buying and selling houses, or buying and holding houses. So yeah, you're going to buy some other properties without me, and I'm okay with that.
Mm-hmm. And it's something which you're basically pointing towards is another important thing of a realtor is them being open-minded. And because I think it's even with realtors, something we speak about as investors is that the scarcity mindset where it's like, oh my God, there's not enough deals out there, and so
Yeah,
I need to take them all, right? So then it's
right.
when that
Yeah,
happens, it does start becoming very transactional. Whereas you know, when you're thinking about building that relationship and you're not worried that, or you know that the investor has other realtors and other, you know, people in their networks,
yeah,
that it doesn't really matter because, you know, it's about building the relationship. And exactly what you're saying, you know, that relationship is very important because it will take you places, you know, different interactions will happen. Or exactly like you said, like we have conversations and we kind of like to see because exactly what you said, like I like to see where your mind is at with the market because you think differently than I do, right? And so we both kind of like get really good information from each other because I'll say like, oh, you know, I think this, and you'll be like, oh my God, I did not even think of it in that way, you know. And same thing,
exactly.
like you tell me something, I was like, oh, that's a really good point, like I need to keep those kind of things in mind, right?
Yeah. So I think the relationship with the realtor and the relationship between the realtor and the investor has to be the same as the relationship between you and your friends, kind of thing, because the realtor has to be on your side and wanting you to do well, regardless of whether you're like, you buy a property with somebody else and you do well. I have to be the first person in your corner, like, yeah, that's awesome, because I want you to do well, right? I want you to do well because eventually I'll do well as the same, right? So that has to be the relationship. It can't be like, oh, you did this or you did that. I can't be upset if you buy something else and I'm not included in that and you do well. I'm all for that, because that's how everybody learns and grows, right? And it's all about the networking. So I'm gonna get other stuff from you. You're gonna get other stuff from me, and it all works out. Like I have realtors that I network with and that I mastermind with throughout the GTA, in fact, throughout North America. So I may know that, okay, this city is going to be doing really, really well. Like right now, Windsor is doing really, really well. So if you want to get into the Windsor market, I can put you in touch with people in Windsor who can help you. Or you want to get into the St. Catharines market, I can put you in touch with people there. And I want you to do well, because I'm going to do well at the end of the day, at the end anyway. So that has to be the people have to be your best, like a cheerleader for you, for sure.
100%. So let's go back. I just want to make sure everyone's okay. Any questions that anyone would like to ask? No?
Yeah, no, I just wanted to say that this is a great conversation, and there's a lot of these things that you touched on. I was worried about when approaching realtors for the first time, and just hearing this conversation, I have a lot more reassurance that we're moving in the right direction. Like when contacting my realtor, I didn't want to be like too pushy, but at the same time, I wanted to build a relationship where I can provide them with things in return too. But at the same time, you don't want to overreach out and work with too many people, right? So I just think this is a really great conversation as far as that goes. Like,
thanks for the comment. And something that you were saying, which I was thinking that is also interesting, is that, and you can tell me, Sandy, what you think of this, which is something that I do. I think straight off the bat, when I talk to a realtor, I tell them who I am. Like, I'm an investor. And even saying, for example, like, I don't make this many offers, but saying like I do an offer a day, let's say, kind of like lets them know where you stand, and kind of, and seeing also like that. Or I'll also ask, for example, are you an investor? Because, for example, like, I feel like I know I made some mistakes of asking, like, do you work with investors? And they say yes. And I realize, but they don't understand the mentality. What do you think about that?
So here's the thing. A lot of people call themselves investors, but it depends what type. Like, this is why I think you need to have this really good conversation with a realtor right at the bat. Sit down with them, get face to face, and have this conversation. Because I can tell you, I get a lot of people who call me and say, I'm an investor. And what they mean by investor is they want a house that they can go in and, rip the carpet out and change the flooring. Or, they're not, and they're, let's say, an investor who wants to buy a second property. So they live in a property they own, they want to buy a property, they're an investor. And they are an investor, but it depends. There are different types of investors, obviously. So I always say to people when they call me and they say I'm an investor, I say to them, is this the first time that you've done this? Is this something that you do for a living, or is this something you're just starting to get into? Because a lot of people will go to conferences and then they call themselves an investor. Just be very upfront about where you are in your, I guess, how do you say that, in your journey of being an investor. So the person understands how to work with you, right? So if you're an investor that's buying one property as a second as a second home and you're going to rent it out, yeah, you're an investor. But what type of investor are you? Is this what you do for a living? Are you going to flip these houses? Are you going to hold these houses? How much renos do you want to do? People tell me, I want to buy a house and reno it. Okay, to them, you got to find out what does that mean to you? Does that mean going in there and gutting this house to the studs if you have to? Does it mean there's some investors who look for properties who are that are stigmatized because they're going to completely revamp those properties, right? That's their niche. Everybody's got a niche on what they're doing as an investor. So me as an investor, I buy properties and typically hold them, and then we flip them. So what is it that you do as an investor? Be very clear about that. And if you tell the agent, this is what I do. We throw all kinds of, we just keep throwing shit at the wall until something sticks. Then the agent can decide whether or not they want to work with you. Is that in their realm? And maybe they don't. So if they don't, they don't. That's fine. Move on until you do find the person who is willing to do that with you, right? That's basically what you need to do. But don't find somebody who just does resale, because if they just do resale, they don't understand the concept. They're going to set you up on an auto search. You're going to get all this, all these emails every day of every single property that comes up. That's not helping you, and it's not helping me. So I think that's basically the best way to do it. Just be upfront with them and explain to them what you do, and let the person decide whether it's within their realm to help you.
100%. Because why waste your time with a realtor that doesn't understand you and doesn't even want to work with you? Like, you realize afterwards that they're like overwhelmed and not getting anything, and they're like, what is this? What's going on? That's why I feel like it's very important from the very beginning to just let them know, right? Because like that, if they say no from the beginning, great, we aren't a match, and like I need to find someone else.
Yeah, just keep the lines of communication open. I think that has to be a two-way street, right? To keep the lines of communication open about what you're doing.
100%. And then another thing that I felt like Sean was kind of alluding to was the like making assumptions. I feel like when you're getting in to talk to a realtor, don't assume things. And again, let them know what you want, but also let the realtor tell you what they want to get out of it, right? So that instead of being like, hey, I'm going to offer you, let's say, I don't know, $500 a month for you to do all these things because I may not be like fully selling from you or something. Like, it's like, what do you think about that?
Yeah, just like I said earlier, just keep the lines of communication open about what you expect and find out what they expect. And it can be a great relationship, I think.
Yeah. So I think, So I was thinking like that, like not making assumptions and just asking the questions, like that, like, this is who I am. What would you want to get out of this? From what I've told you, is this something you even want to be involved in, right?
Yeah.
That's perfect.
Yeah. So, and I think I just want to, because I keep saying you need to work with someone who's an investor. So I just want to put something out there to Jermaine, that I think from your perspective, it's the same thing. Keep the lines of communication open. And if you're a realtor that isn't an investor right now, just be open about that. Hey, this is what I'm trying to do. This is, I want to work with investors. I haven't in the past, but let's work together and figure this out, because there's a lot of investors that are new in the game as well. And you can start to build a relationship with them, and then you're off to the races.
100%. Jermaine, do you want to add on, or you're good?
I don't think he knows he's muted.
Let me unmute. Did I unmute? No.
No, sorry. I didn't want to just jump in and unmute by myself. It's your show.
Oh, no, you can unmute. There's no issues.
Oh, okay, great. So, no, basically, I completely agree with everything that Sandra, you've touched on in terms of the relationship. And that is such an integral part. And in particular, the portion that you were talking about what type of investor. This is a crucial question. And it actually is, it's more important than just this relationship. This is a very general kind of idea for relationships in general and how you should approach people. It doesn't actually matter. To your point, Diana, about, why waste your time with a realtor specifically, I would say why waste your time with anyone? Because really, it's not an adversarial type of thing that you ever want to have. You don't want these adversarial type of relationships. You want to be working with people. And so to bring it all the way back, a solution-oriented mindset is actually what I'm looking for. So like for me as a realtor, I really want people who are solution oriented. It doesn't matter if you're putting in an offer or 10 a day. Ultimately, I know that if you're the right type of person, which is that mentality, that solution oriented person, we can create a team and a framework where everyone can win. You know, nobody has to get rich overnight. Unfortunately, a lot of realtors are painted in that light. And I get that. You know, when I entered in, you can see where the bar is. And frankly, it can be low. You know, you guys are looking for something very, very specific. And I mean, even within this group, which is unique. And, you know, Sandra, again, like you've nailed it so many times. It's actually a lot to take in, and I'll be enjoying this recording because, you know, you make some really, really, really valid points. But I would just reiterate that, you know, our interests are kind of inherently misaligned so far as ours seeking commission and yours for seeking profit. So the best that we can do to try and bring those into alignment, to figure out through communication, through honesty, through transparency, that's the way to do it, you know, from my limited experience.
Absolutely. 100% agree. It's all about the relationship. It's all about the relationship you build. And there's so many ways to build this relationship. I think I don't know what the realm is of all the investors on this call, but you know, for the ones who are starting out, my passion is just helping young people get into real estate and invest in real estate, because I think it's super important. There's so many ways that you can build this relationship. Like when you're first starting out, you don't, you know, maybe the money isn't there. Why not team up with the realtor and say, hey, why don't we, you know, if we buy this property, how much do you think I'm going to make? Is there an opportunity for us to team up on this project, so that the realtor also has some skin in the game? It's not just, you know, not just buying it and selling it and making that commission, because you could build that relationship this way. How about, you know what, if I make this much money, this is how much you get paid. You can work this, you can slice this any way you want, and you can make it work at the end of the day.
100%. And I think another thing that I just kind of want to add on to it is, which I think is another fear that comes from investors, but I don't think it's just more like we're not thinking things through, is that the planning part. So, you know, if like for example, when I'm doing an analysis on the property, I have my realtor fee in there already. And so for me, like, do I care that I'm paying the realtor? Because it's already built in there. And as long as like that, I meet my specific criteria, like my specific, let's say profits, or if it's, let's say a BRRRR, then, you know, it's different, but whatever it is, like if my cash flow, if I'm meeting my goals of cash flow and profit, then why am I so scared about having a realtor in there? Because they should be available in your planning, in your analysis of a property. Would you like to add on to that?
I agree with that. So here's what I'm going to say about that. Don't look at the realtor as a liability. The realtor should be an asset to you, just like any of the, you know, you're not going to buy a house and think, well, I don't want to pay for supplies. I don't want to pay for material. You're building in that material. As long as the realtor is an asset to you, that's the thing. You can't go into this relationship thinking, well, oh, I got to use a realtor. If you have the right realtor working with you, they are definitely going to be an asset. They're going to help you make more money. So you've got to look at it that way. And if you're looking at the realtor as a liability and figuring that it's just a cost that you could do without, then you're working with the wrong realtor. Plain and simple, you're just working with the wrong person. It's, you know, no different than.
And it's just transactional, like what you were saying,
absolutely,
right? Because if you're not thinking, you shouldn't be thinking, oh my God, this is a cost. To be like, oh my God, I'm helping this person and they're helping me.
Right, exactly.
It's all about, again, back to relationship.
Because there's so much value that a good realtor can add to the equation here. So I think one of the things is that when you, as an investor, you guys are looking at things in black and white. So the way we appraise properties is more part science, part intuition. If we know the area, we know what kind of, like, what's going to happen when you fix this property, when you revamp this property and you go to sell it. Whereas you guys are looking at it more on a you know, maybe another way for me to explain this is this. People, the end user, like our clients that are families and stuff, they all buy properties with their heart. They don't buy properties with their head, right? So they're not looking at the return. They're just buying it with their heart. Whereas a realtor is buying it with their head, or sorry, where an investor is buying it with their head, right? So there is some part of that sometimes an investor will miss. Like, this is a really good opportunity because of this, but when you guys look at your numbers, sometimes you're like, no, it doesn't work. But like, sometimes I'm just like, oh my God, like, it's gonna work. I know it's gonna work, kind of thing. But so it's a little bit of a different concept that we look at it from. So you got to take a little bit. I mean, as a realtor, we got to take a lot from you guys as well on how your numbers work, because you guys have a program that you use and we have to stick to that. But there also is some opportunities out there that are just really good opportunities, and just, it, like I say, has to be a really good relationship, and you can't be looking at them as a liability, because that's, or just a cost on your sheet, right? It's got to be, you know, this person is really going to help me.
Yeah, 100%. And I feel like you're a little bit alluding to, because you can kind of also forecast in the next few months, like how how much things are going to increase. So you may think, we're just thinking, because at least the way I think, we're using, for example, the comparables as they are now, which I noticed that, for example, a lot of people in the Hamilton area, they were really going on projections of what's happening in the next 3 to 6 months. And so like that, like my numbers weren't working out at all, because I'm working with comps that are in the moment, where because you're in it, you're like, I know this is going to sell at this amount at this time, even though let's say with comparables, is not, the numbers aren't like making sense to me.
Yeah, for sure. Because every different market, I mean, I just look at the Hamilton market and say, look everywhere around it. You can't buy anywhere around Hamilton. You can't buy for the prices that you can buy for in Hamilton. So it only makes sense. And then look, it only makes sense that the prices are going to go up here, because people are coming from Toronto and different areas, moving into the Hamilton market. And look what the Hamilton, and I'll just use Hamilton as an example right now. Look at what's going on in Hamilton. Like, they're really trying to revamp this city, right? Like, so Barton Street is all becoming, the GO train's going there. They revamped Tim Hortons Field. They put in, like, they revamped Center Mall. Like, they really want that whole area to revamp. So you've got to look a little bit into the future at this kind of stuff, and where is it going.
So does anyone have any questions? Going once? Going twice?
Yeah, Diana, it's Terry. Good morning, everyone. I have a question.
Go ahead.
I have a question regarding looking for a realtor in a new market. So I joined the meeting a little late. Maybe you guys covered it already. If so, I'll just rewatch it later. But I'm wondering, for example, I'm in the Mississauga. I physically live in Mississauga, but I'm looking in southwestern Ontario. So let's say, for example, if I'm looking in St. Thomas to invest, how would you as a realtor recommend finding someone like yourselves who is investor oriented to add to my power team in a new market?
So I'll go ahead and answer that if you like. So interview agents. So talk to an agent. If you have an agent that you trust in the area that you're in, talk to that agent and see if they have any, because a lot of times as realtors, we also network with agents who do the same thing. So if you're looking in a specific market, I can definitely help you and see if there's somebody out there that does what I do as well. But then I would sit down and interview some agents and just talk to them and see where they're at, and build that relationship with them. But don't go forward with somebody if you're not comfortable. Just keep interviewing them until you find the right person.
Yeah, and Terry, I think to add on, because we did kind of speak about it, is just being upfront with them from the very beginning, and telling them what you're looking for and what you want, and what they want to get out of what you've told them. And from that, you'll quickly find the right one, right? Because you will have to go through a lot to find out the ones that are specifically investor focused. Terry, do you have any?
Thank you.
Is that was good?
Yeah.
If I could, just as a final note, to piggyback off of what Sandra said, a lot of us do have relationships with each other that are within kind of the same wheelhouse, quote unquote, but there is also a business of referrals for us. And so I would really emphasize what Sandra did say about interviewing agents, if not multiple, because even if you are sent to someone, A, it has to be a good personality fit, but B, you know, we do have to remove the incentive sometimes. And I'm just saying that as a person. So you do need to do your due diligence all the time. Take as many referrals as you possibly can, do your own due diligence.
100%. It's so important because like that, why are we wasting anyone's hours and anyone's time? Like that, like when anyone's asking questions or trying to figure out if this the match, is just to make sure that everyone's happy in what we're going to decide to do, like whatever the action plan is. And then like that, like I think that's what a lot of investors are so always worried about. I feel like I keep on saying it again, but it's like we're always so worried, like, oh, we don't want to overuse our realtors. Oh, what if like this realtor like gets offended by me? If you're just straight up front from the beginning and you're just like, this is what I look for, these are my needs, from what you've heard, what does this mean for you? What do you want to do about this? Like what works, right? Because, and then the same thing is all realtors have their different needs as investors do, right? We have, for example, like one house that I'm interested in, or let's say one house that someone else is interested in, I may be like, no way, I have no interest in investing in that house because it's just not meeting whatever my matrix are, right? So it's just like all these little details are so important to making sure you're finding the right person and making sure that it is a relationship that you're building. Because I feel like in a relationship, it's so important to like that, like we need to get to know each other, we need to understand each other, and if we don't, then how are we building that relationship? It just goes back to transactional, because really it's like I'm just coming to you, hey, like what deal do you have, whereas like it
Yeah.
should be, hey, how's it going, what have you been up to, like it should be building that friendship.
Yeah, for sure. Because you know what, it's not. This isn't a zero-sum game, right? Like you guys are investors and you're networking, you're masterminding together, which I think is awesome because you can all feed off each other and help each other. And I think it needs to be the same relationship with anybody that's on your team, like your lawyer, your mortgage broker, your realtor, everybody that's on your team. It's like I say, it's not a zero-sum game. You making money does not mean I don't make money. There's more than enough money to go around in this business, and I think we all have to really help each other to get to the end goal.
100%. And that was actually exactly what you're saying. In our last meetup, we had a lawyer and an accountant on, and it was the same thing. They're like, we need to get to know you. We need to build a relationship. So
Yeah.
your power team, you got to get to know them. You need to build that relationship. It's so important for getting, to be honest, anywhere in life, not
Yeah.
even this.
Yeah.
And so I want to now get into the markets and just get your point of view of what you've seen so far and what do you forecast in the next 3 to 6 months. Like what are you seeing with all this politics and everything going on, and like what you're seeing with the sales? Like what is your opinion?
So this obviously has been a very interesting year. And when COVID first started, it was, as a team, I'll just give you a little bit of history about what we did. So as a team, we had a meeting and said, okay, what are we doing here? And we all decided to go full steam ahead and said, we don't know what's going to happen. This is unprecedented. And I said to everybody on my team, I'm not letting anybody go. I want everybody to stay on the team. If you're not comfortable and you want to move on, go ahead. But whoever's in is in. And so everybody on the team stayed. We all just kept going forward and didn't know what to expect, obviously. So, and as everybody can see, the market kind of never really went down. Like there was still a lot of sales happening. And then it, now then it kind of took off. But what I am seeing from the realtor side is, even though the sales are very, very strong, there is still a lot of buyer fatigue out there and a little worry about, overpaying for properties. So we are seeing a lot of multiple offers still, but we're not seeing houses go way over what they're listed at. So they still seem to be selling within the realm of what their value is as an end user buying that property. Going forward, it's honestly, I don't know. I honestly don't know what's going to happen here, because it's really going to depend on, you know, I get a little skittish when I start hearing, you know, someone like CMHC saying the market's going to drop. Like, I just think, what is the purpose of that? Why would you come out and say something like that? It makes no sense to me. The real estate market, the real estate industry has kept the Ontario economy going for the past 10 years. There's been a lot of times where it's been the only industry that's kept everything else going. We have to think about that, and I think people really underestimate that. So a person buys a house, they use a lawyer, they a lot of times they renovate the property, they buy furniture. There's just so much spin-off from that person buying a house, and it's really kept the market going. So when someone like CMHC comes out and says something like that, it's very disturbing to me. So I think what's going to happen, basically my prediction on in the market is that it's going to keep going. We've seen in the last few weeks a little bit of a slowdown, a little bit of, you know, calming down a little bit. And I think that's a function of all of the talk about a second wave and what's going to happen and people getting a little bit nervous. The people that I saw that bought houses when COVID hit, right now they are very happy. And in this game, I'm going to be very blunt. Like, you got to have balls or get out, because if you're not going to jump in when the market goes down, then you're just in the wrong realm here. Like, you've got to be buying when people are not buying. So regardless of what happens with the market, I think there's going to be some really good opportunities that come up. I can't see this continuing to go up forever, because we have been in an up market for well over 10 years now. So it's going to level off at some point. It's really going to depend on how the government handles it. And I think personally they've done a fairly good job with the market and trying to keep it, you know, within within reason. So I don't like some of the things they've done, but I think within reason most of it's working. But it can't keep going up forever. But that means, if that's the case, there are some massive opportunities for you guys out there as investors. Just don't be afraid and go for it, because that's where you're going to make the money, right? That's what Warren Buffett says. When there's blood on the streets, that's when you got to get out there and buy the properties. So, and when everybody's buying, that's when you got to be a little bit more cautious, maybe move markets. There's always opportunities. There's always a market where there's opportunity. So you may have to change your market area, and that's okay, but just go for it.
Yeah, 100%. I think that's also usually one of the things, that it's not that everything goes down everywhere. It's
Exactly.
certain types of properties, certain type of buyers may not be buying. Because, for example, when you were saying buyer fatigue, are you talking about those turnkey properties where it's not investors buying? Is that buyer fatigue? Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Because I feel like as investors, investors are still like, the ones that want to buy those turnkey rental properties are still like on the go.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, that separates a true investor from someone who's not a true investor, because a true investor will jump in when things are scary. A true investor will jump in at that point. A person who's not a true investor will back out. They'll be like, okay, nobody else is buying, so I'm not going to buy. To me, that's not an investor. An investor is the guy who's like, okay, nobody's buying. Awesome. Where are the opportunities right now? And there's lots of them out there. There's always lots of them out there. Even in a market like Hamilton, where everything is selling quickly, there's aged inventory. There's the seller out there that thinks that their house is worth more than it is. There's properties that have, if you have a good relationship with the realtor, they can go out and find the properties that were on the market and have come off for some reason. Because most people, when they take their property off the market, they still want to sell it. They take it off for a reason. Sometimes it's a life event, sometimes it's just timing, but almost always they still want to sell it. So you need somebody who's going to go out there and find those properties for you, not the ones that just came on the market 2 days ago, because those are the ones you're going to be competing for. You want the private sales. You want, there's people, I have people in my database that are going to sell at some point. So if I'm on the ball, I can be like, okay, I know where this person buys. I talk to this seller, they're going to sell at some point. Okay, well, why don't we put the two together, right? I'm working on a deal right now that the property came off the market, and now I've brought somebody else in there because when I went to see the property, I was like, oh my God, this would be a perfect opportunity for this type of a business. I know someone who runs that type of a business. So I called them and said, hey, why don't you come and see this house? So we're working on a project there. So that's what you're looking for, right? You're muted, Diana.
Oh, sorry about that.
I feel like somebody should mute me because I just keep going on and on. But I just love this. Like, I'm so passionate about this because I think I love investors, and I can't see all of the pictures here, but some of the people I see are young. Like, man, you got to do this. You got to do this when you're young and be aggressive and build that portfolio. You know, like, don't let people tell you like, oh, go buy RSPs. I just, like, that kind of stuff drives me crazy. Buy houses, buy real estate. People got to live somewhere.
100%. Yeah, I totally agree with that. Does anyone want to make a comment about the market, like what anything or anything in general that Sandy has said?
Yeah, Diana, I have a comment.
Sure, go ahead.
So referring back to what you guys said earlier, Stephen Arnio very well, I don't remember which one of his books it is. He points out how not all buyers are always buyers and not all sellers are always sellers, and vice versa. Just because you're a buyer right now doesn't mean you won't be a seller later, and just as you might be a seller right now doesn't mean you won't be buying later. So absolutely, I agree that there will be opportunities. We just have to be prepared to take them, because especially, again, like the Warren Buffett quote, where, you know, when there's blood in the streets, you know, that's when it's your time to strike. So I do agree, although right now it may not be as easy to snap up those one day on the market deals, but I do think there will be things coming up.
Absolutely.
100%. And the same thing in the both that you're saying with the comment of that, let's say if people aren't buying is when you should be buying. We always have to remember as investors that we're the 1%. So exactly what you're saying, you're not an investor unless if you're like taking the risks, obviously taking the risks in a smart way and planning it properly.
Yeah.
But we are the 1%, and that's why we are at that level. Same thing like millionaires. Millionaires are 1%, or billionaires, I should say, sorry, are at the 1%. Why? Because they take the risks and they do the things that other people are not willing to do. And so it's definitely something that we all need to work on, you know, finding like our risk tolerance, but at the same time, once we found it, pushing ahead and letting, you know, like being uncomfortable and doing it.
Yeah, being comfortable, being uncomfortable, for sure.
Exactly, 100%.
Yeah.
So Sandy, thank you so much. It was so much fun chatting with you.
Thank you. I love this.
Yeah, you brought us a lot of amazing information. And would you like to share your details for anyone that would like to get in contact with you?
Sure. So I'll just let you guys know. So one thing I just want to say before I give you my details is what you guys always have to remember is that if this was easy, everybody would do it. It's not easy, and it takes a lot of guts, and, you know, but there is good return at the end of the day. So that's what I'll say to you guys, and congrats for jumping into this realm and doing this, because there is a lot of upside to this, not only financially, but just it's so rewarding in so many different ways. So congrats to you guys. So I will tell you, so I work in the GTA, basically, so PL, Halton, Hamilton area, and I'm happy to answer if you guys have any questions for me. No cost, no obligation here. Honestly, if you ever have any questions, just as an investor or something you want to run by me, feel free to call me. My phone number is 416-467-8627. And I also will tell you, if you're looking in other markets throughout Ontario, even in the US, if you do properties in the US, I have a big network of realtors. I belong to a training group. There's thousands of us throughout North America. We just got off a 3-day conference yesterday that we network as well for a lot of different things. So if you're looking for a realtor in a specific market, feel free to reach out. I'm happy to pass on any information that I have if I do have it. And yeah, happy to answer any questions that you guys have at any time.
Awesome. Thank you so much. It was amazing having you here. I know everyone got really good information from you.
I hope so. Yeah, I hope so. Thank you. I appreciate it. I'm super happy to be here.
Yeah, thank you so much. It was really nice having everyone on, and we'll see what the next topic for the next weekend will be. Bye, everyone.
Yes, this is awesome. Thanks, guys. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.